The KUAM Podcast Network is back and on demand, featuring a great variety of podcasts from our island and region, including culture, lifestyle, awareness, crime, politics, commentary, comedy, and entertainment. Available on most streaming platforms. The KUAM Podcast Network. Subscribe and listen now.
Christmas in the islands. What does this particular holiday mean for this island community in the Western Pacific? There are differing opinions, and this podcaster offers up just one to think about. A very holiday-oriented topic on this episode of That's It, That's All.
You are listening to That's It, That's All with Eulogio Gumataotao.
You are listening to That's It, That's All. My name is Eulogio Gumataotao, the host of the podcast. That's It, That's All is brought to you by Get LLC, the Guam-based consulting and specialty construction materials and supplies firm. Serves both public and private sector organizations in Micronesia and the Western Pacific. Need insight into writing a business plan? With the high cost of fuel, are you looking for energy-efficient solutions for your offices or commercial facilities to curb those power costs? We'll find out more about them and how Get LLC can help your organization. Find them on the World Wide Web at get-guam.com. Check them out right now. Hello to those listeners in Sausalito, California. Also, greetings to those of you listening in Coleman, Alabama, and Calamaria in Greece. Along the Thermaic Gulf, yes, the listenership is growing with each and every episode, and can't forget the listeners across the island of Guam in my home village of Talafofo. Half a day to you all. Thanks for having That's It, That's All on your travels from one end of Paradise Guam to the other. Remember, we hope that you will download the podcast for your gym workout, road trip, or time on your laptop or desktop computers. Can't forget the big thank you to redcircle.com and getting the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Amazon Music. Remember that you can listen to That's It, That's All on the iHeartRadio app and on Pandora. The podcast is also a part of the KUAM Podcast Network, an awesome collection of on-demand audio shows originating in Guam and Micronesia from the #1 broadcast news and digital source of information in Guam and Micronesia. Remember to like, subscribe, or follow this particular podcast. Click one of those buttons right now. From the title of the podcast, if you were expecting me to break out and sing the song with the same title by Guam music icon Johnny Sablon, well, you came to the wrong part of the podcast world. A great song, though, for the time of the year that this podcast is premiering. Yes, that means go and check it out. Okay, the podcast is not about Christmas Island, the Australian territory that was named by English Captain William Miners, who discovered the 52-square-mile island back in 1615. The podcast won't make a reference, outside of this one, to Shaggy and his Christmas in the Islands album deluxe. And I won't break down the top 9 islands for a tropical Christmas vacation or any such poll. Just seems so un-Christmas-like. The podcast is about Christmas. Now, when growing up, I wondered when living in San Leandro, California as a young boy, that my family in Guam would get their gifts from Santa way before we did in the Bay Area. When I look back, it was a bit far-fetched, but the younger Sean would have still asked that important question. The warning signs of the holiday season seem to creep up out of nowhere. Thanksgiving comes every year, and the turkey-induced coma keeps me confused until the first flyer for a Christmas ale comes hard and heavy the weekend after Turkey Day. In recent years, the online shopping banners for Black Friday kind of make me think about getting into the Christmas mood. But it doesn't stick for long. That is, until my wife and kids start asking about Christmas Day plans. You know, when things are getting festive in this part of the world, when the call goes out for help for the annual Christmas drop event that the United States Air Force has led since 1952. The first of the Christmas lights start to be adorned across different buildings and homes that dot the island. Then, the familiar ringing of bells by the Salvation Army across the front doors of different retail outlets ring in the holiday season. But wait, where is the snow? Where is the hot cocoa? You can't find a chimney anywhere in our latitude. The weather is some of the best in the world at this time of the year. Rain? Well, not so much. Trade winds? Well, you bet. There has been major weather in our area in years past. Ask our Manumco about some devastating tropical storms and typhoons, and they have plenty of stories of Christmas displays ruined and a damper on what is always meant to be a more peaceful time of the year. Christmas in the islands, I can attest, is taken pretty seriously. On Guam, we know we are getting close when Kamalinde, celebrating our island's patron saint, comes and goes with such reverence to the Holy Mother. Kids from Jigo to Umatic start talking about what they're going to do on Christmas break from school. Nothing really has changed in that department despite the global pandemic. The practicing for Christmas school programs and classroom door decorating gets the kids laser focused on staying good versus being that bad kid. For adults, this is not lost on them either here in the U.S. territory. The standard warning of not stacking gifts in your car or locking your car is message number one by the Guam Police Department. How can we forget bosses looking at ways to celebrate the work of their hard-charging employees with a COVID-impacted night out on the town, or that holiday potluck featuring some of the best baked hams on this side of the international date line? For this podcaster, the Christmas holiday seems to ask more of me. Not that getting around retail outlets is that challenging now versus putting around during other parts of the year. Not the enduring Christmas song after Christmas song on every over-the-air radio station. Now, I do enjoy the Feliz Navidad by Jose Feliciano and maybe the different versions of Jingle Bell Rock, or even driving by those homes across the island that take house lightings to whole new levels. Those new LED Christmas lights probably have Guam Power Authority management second-guessing December power cost collection estimates. What Christmas in the island says to me is that this is that unique season that is filled with giving, thanks, and happiness. Much of it has to do with my faith, and a moment that is special to me and millions all across the globe.
This podcast is sponsored by Get LLC, a consulting and specialty construction materials and supplies firm. Since 2012, they have provided valuable services to their customers across Micronesia and North America. Check them out on the World Wide Web at get-guam.com. They have a presence on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram too. Get LLC. Find out today how they can best serve your business's specific needs.
At last count for the production of this podcast, there are 1.34 billion Catholics worldwide. For this particular part of the year, I get fired up when 4 colored candles appear at the steps of the altar of my church here in Talafofo, Guam. 3 purple, 1 rose. With each week comes this anticipation of the coming of, as Catholics we believe, is the Lord Jesus. With the hustle and bustle of life, each day and week has plenty of joy and sorrow. Each of us taking so much time with work and rest. It is just the way of the world, even here in the Western Pacific. As a parent, I've tried to teach my kids the importance of this time of year, and it is not giving and getting a gift. This is that time of year to prepare spiritually. Funny, friends and family from all faiths and denominations are doing much of the same. There's no question on this. For Hindus, the annual festival of lights, Diwali, Hindus use the time to reflect, and yes, there is a revering of Jesus. The end of the month of Ramadan and 3 days of the Eid mark the Muslim observation of one of two parts to the official holidays in Islam. Even for Buddhists, Jesus, a bodhisattva to them, is one who forgoes his own benefit to help others, is kind, and loves all beings. From Melanesia to Polynesia to right here in Micronesia, Christmas is celebrated or at least observed. In my research and extensive travels across the great ocean that is the Pacific, the holiday is one that takes that time to reflect on the kindness, helpfulness, and love for all peoples. Recently, I came across an article on CatholicEducation.org written by Michael Land Martin, who notes the teaching of the doctrine of redemption and lessons of developing a sense of generosity toward God drives teaching of the Catholic faithful this time of year. Martin notes, quote, "A family's strong and living faith will become their heritage and a mode to reinforce the religious practices centered in the liturgy." Close quote. As a podcaster with 5 children, there is such anticipation this time of year, where researchers draw the reference to empty mangers to fill with straw for small sacrifices ahead of Christmas morning. We look to nativity sets in our homes as that symbol of the true meaning of Christmas, our preparation for the coming of Christ the King. These are hopeful thoughts. We become so mindful, at least speaking for myself, I am so mindful during the days ahead into December 25th. I did mention Black Friday a bit earlier in the podcast. That day for my household signifies pulling out the Christmas decorations. Gold, green, red, a tree, an ornament, a nativity scene, a star. These symbols represent more than just pockets of space that look nice with them all arranged on a Christmas tree. These symbols represent hope, kindness, and love to me. I didn't think that they would bring out such emotion in me either. In recent years, this has seemed to become more and more important. Now, with hope comes despair. We are in times that the COVID pandemic has challenged even our basic practices as a society. The isolation, even on an isolated island, has had major ramifications. With kindness comes bitterness. The holiday doesn't spare us from crazy actions. ABC News reported on December 8, 2021, that at least 12 major U.S. cities have broken annual homicide records in 2021, and there is still 3 weeks to go in the year. The report cites, quote, experts who say there are a number of reasons possibly connected to the jump in homicides, including strained law enforcement staffing, a pronounced decline in arrests, and continuing hardships from the pandemic, but there is no clear answer across the board. And with love comes loss. This last one has had me thinking of late of not just all the great people that have left this earth in the last year, but all of those who have gone to God since I can remember. The festive times with them are still important memories for me. Their collective laughs and smiles made the Christmas holiday past. Christmas holiday present has and remains tough to think about about not having these great people around us, or being here to eat the buñuelos dogu, tell a joke, or ask how things are going in our respective parts of the island. When I walk into my local church, San Miguel Church in Talafofo, I'm always in awe of how much effort is put into this important time in the liturgical calendar. It isn't too different from the churches I have attended in the past. While we might be missing some great people in our lives at this time of year, it is also important to remember why this season is so important. This season signifies hope. It is this hope that comes in the form of a baby in a manger, that baby and very humble beginnings. The baby is our reminder of why hope, kindness, and love is still here over 2,000 years after he entered the world. The baby is Jesus Christ. The baby is our Lord and Savior.
This podcast is sponsored by Get LLC, a consulting and specialty construction materials and supplies firm. Since 2012, they have provided valuable services to their customers across Micronesia and North America. Check them out on the World Wide Web at get-guam.com. They have a presence on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram too. Get LLC. Find out today how they can best serve your business's specific needs.
There is no pounding of mochi here in the Marianas. The good luck and those good eats are across the ocean from here on the Big Island in Hawaii. There are some remnants of the giant lantern festival, which Guam residents from Luzon in the Philippines are always trying to share here, another carryover of our rich and deep heritage together. We don't share songs and food with a sister village like they do in the Cook Islands. Pretty mellow stuff here in the southern part of the Marianas Archipelago. In the CNMI, Christmas in Saipan is pretty much done the same way as it is done here. Christmas stuff from Capitol Hill to San Antonio gets pulled out just after Thanksgiving. Our collective Catholic faithful celebrating the seasons and preparing for the arrival of the Christ. Yes, another carryover from the explorers who brought religion to us in the year 1521. I must say, though, that we here in Guam seem so far removed from our Micronesian brothers and sisters in the atolls of the Central Pacific. The Marshallese enjoy the Christmas holiday season stretching from September through December. The activities of this long season of preparation to include the Christmas festivities are a reflection of the Marshallese and their perceptions of well-being, abundance, love, generosity, prestige, beauty, and play. Heck, singing is a big part of Christmas in the Kingdom of Tonga. The spiritual Christmas season there, some 3,616 miles from here to our southeast, begins during the first week of December and goes into New Year's Day, singing all day and night. Now, where am I going with all of this? Well, some observations. Christmas truly is that time where hope is abound. I cannot seem to stress that enough in this podcast. With all the things that face us collectively as a world community, this hope is that reminder of a time where things that keep us down won't put us out completely. The season does this for me. I see it in my travels across the island of Guam. I've seen it in my travels to the other islands of Micronesia during this time over the years. Being kind is not too hard here. Heck, 80-degree weather, sunshine, brisk winds, cool nights. Why be a hard ass when kindness gets so much more out of the experiences here in the islands? Even as times have been tough, organizations have asked and received so much support to feed the homeless, support troubled youth, or to give those less fortunate Manumco some cheer and a bit of help. Love seems to be in the air too during the Christmas season in the islands of Micronesia. Our friends, our family, love for others, a recipe for good times in the lead up to Christmas Day. The Christmas or the holiday cards, the notes for success in the coming year, the simple smile, yes, minus a mask. We cannot get too far at this time of year from love. At times, I wish the season was longer. Who does not like boosting others' morale in these crazy times? Why can't we share more cookies or some sweet baked goodness with one another beyond the month of December? A hug and a kiss in these pandemic times seem like a huge public health risk that many of us are willing to take. Just saying, I love you means so much. Can we get more people to support the plight of the downtrodden? How about the support of common folks trying to scratch out a living? We all should strive to live in a society where everyone is important and contributes to our collective. Don't forget that beauty comes in many, many forms. And finally, it is okay to laugh and take time to reflect on all that is in fact good. Believe it or not, that is one of the purposes of this particular podcast. While keeping close to my dad's worldview here and his constant lessons, including those of the Christmas season, This effort to share with you attempts to do just that. Christmas in the islands, well, is unique. We face the unknown and horrible acts, and they're everywhere each and every day, and it doesn't really matter where you live. Together as a world community, we should look to this time and celebrate it. It is such an important time that, while filled with a Western called American carryover here in Guam, I would argue that it's also uniquely Islander-centric, the holiday season. That is Christmas. We thank God for all that He's given to us for this moment, to include His only Son, His life, His birth, His impact that we are seeing right to this very moment. Merry Christmas, all. That's it. That's all. If you enjoyed this podcast, download, press subscribe, or follow us right now. More great content is on the way. Talk to you soon.
The That's It, That's All podcast is produced by Sean Gumataotao. Executive producer is Trisha Gumataotao. Hit the subscribe or follow button and leave a review. Thanks for listening.
The KUAM Podcast Network is back and on demand, featuring a great variety of podcasts from our island and region, including culture, lifestyle, awareness, crime, politics, commentary, comedy, and entertainment. Available on most streaming platforms. The KUAM Podcast Network. Subscribe and listen now.